Okay, Chaz de Hashem, Shavua Tov. We are in the Heilige of Nachman, and we're looking for the Seichel Shebechol Davar, like we've been talking about. The Seichel Shebechol Davar means the point of godliness inside of everything, which means Hashem is talking to me all the time. There's no such thing as Stam. Stam means, why did the train come at this time? Stam. Why did I meet this person on the streets? Stam. Stam Azoy. It's a coincidence. We say there's no such thing as coincidence. There's co-incidence. Ko-echsaf. There's only a co-incidence. Hashem is running everything, and that's called the Seichel Shebechol Davar, that Hashem is speaking to me every single moment. And when I see that light, Rav Nachman taught me that it's big, it's bright, I have self-confidence, I feel happy with myself. I'm not thinking, where do I go and what do I do? And you feel good. And we say this is the level of the tzaddik. That tzaddik lives with this light. We said this is the level of Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu, which is Chochmah. Yaakov is the wise one. It says when Yaakov fooled Esav, that fooled, we said, is translated as Chacham, that he had a wisdom. And we said, who was the real firstborn? Was it Yaakov or Esav? So Esav looked like he was the firstborn, because Esav came out into the world first. But we said if you put two pebbles into a small tube, which one comes out first? The pebble that came in second. So Yaakov was the emes firstborn, because Yaakov's always holding on to that point called the firstborn. But Esav is mavazeh, the nakuda of the firstborn. Esav always pushes away that there's a beginning. And most of the world says there's no beginning, it just came from a monkey. When a person comes to learn Torah, they realize that there's only Hashem, and Hashem is the source of everything. And it's a tremendous kindness that there's even a creation. So the wise man is always looking for that message in every single thing. And he's living with that Torah, he's living with that Chochmah. Okay, that's what we're up to so far. And when you get that, you have chiyus, you have real energy, you have real life force. And that's all symbolized by the letter Ches. It's a bit Kabbalistic. The letter Ches represents, even though the letter Ches means Ches, chiyus, means life. The Hebrew letter Ches, the 8th letter of the alphabet, which is also 8 is above nature, 7 is nature, 8 is above nature. It's that point. It's in everything, but it's above everything. That's the Ches. Rav Nachman's about to take us to the next phase, which is, that's a very big light. And we can't always receive that light. Because, sometimes we don't feel so connected to Hashem. And sometimes we feel like everything's going wrong. And sometimes we feel like physically our stomachs are hurting us. We feel like everything is shvach and we're not doing well. And we just feel like I'm not able to receive that light, and I slept in, I didn't have a good davening, and it's not going well with my relationships. And I had a fight with my wife, my husband, it's not going well, and my girlfriend just dumped me, and this stuff, I don't feel that light of Hashem. It's all great when you feel the light, and you're able to find that point in everything that God is speaking to us. But what if I don't feel it? So look inside, says Rav Nachman. Machmas she'ora seichel gadol me'ayid. Because the light of the Seichel Shebechol Davar, the light of Chacham, the light of the Tzaddik, that light of the sun, the Shemesh is so great. Can you look at the sun straight up? You can't look at the sun, it's too bright. Even my sun-gazing chevra will tell you that you can't look at the sun when it's at its brightest. And because this light is so bright, Efshar Lizkais Elav, for most of us, we're not at the level to see that sun in midday. There's another way to access the light. How do we do that? Imali de bechinas nun. We're going to talk today about the letter nun. Through the letter nun. Only when we can connect ourselves to the Hebrew letter nun, the secrets of the nun, then we're going to be able to receive the light from the Ches. This might sound esoteric and Kabbalistic, and because it is, it's Rav Nachman, my friends. But we're going to bring it down to a bunch of guys like us who are just trying to hold on to the coattails of the tzaddik, to try and appreciate that light, the light of Shimon, the light of the Arizal, the light of the Baal Shem Tov, the light of the Nachman. It's all the same neshama. It's all the same soul. What is this nun? Shehu bechinas malchus. The nun represents malchus. Nowadays in Sfiras Ha'omer, everyone's learning about the spheres. You go up to Tzfat for about 5 minutes, you already have a sphere picture on your backdrop of your phone. The spheres, right? Chachma, malchus. So malchus means kingdom. But contrary to the kingdom of the lies of this world, where the kingdom of this world, the king is this very massive, imposing figure that doesn't listen to anybody. The kingship that we're talking about is the kingship of the Torah, which is that the true king of Israel is completely nullified. He has nothing of himself. The king of Israel is a vessel that's empty. Because when you have an empty vessel, then you could receive everything. If a person fills up his vessel, like I'm a big shot or something, and there's nothing that could come in. There's nothing that can come in. And that's why the lies of this world, the biggest lie is the one who calls himself the king. Who's the haughtiest person in the world, probably. The king, right? LeBron, the king. It's the most fake king there ever was. The king, yeah, sure. Which means there's no space for anything else to come in. It's totally pushing away true godliness from coming into him. And that's called the kingdom of the other side. But the kingdom of the God of Israel, the kingdom of the king of Israel says, I have nothing. And that's why there's a special halacha. There's in Jewish law that a king has to write himself an extra Sefer Torah. There's a law that every single one of us have to write a Sefer Torah. I'm not sure if you know that. So I hope you guys are practicing your handwriting. It takes a long time to write a Sefer Torah. If you can't do that, then just write at least one letter. Some say if you buy a Sefer Torah, if you dedicate a Sefer Torah, if anyone has an extra 95 grand lying around, I think they're even more expensive nowadays, 120 grand lying around, then we'll talk about writing a Sefer Torah. We're writing one by Yichimayim. All the Talmidim pitched in money to dedicate a Sefer Torah built from the Talmidim. Next Pesach, it's being written right now, by next Pesach. So besides the fact that every single one of B'ezrat Hashem will all be dancing there together with Mashiach, it's going to be a big Haknas Sefer Torah. Besides the fact that every one of us have a mitzvah to write a Sefer Torah, the king has a special mitzvah to write another Sefer Torah that he binds to his arm. Did you know that? The Gemara talks about if he has it on his arm, where does he put his tefillin? So the Gemara shows exactly where he puts it, and how does he go to war with his Torah. It's not a big one, it's a little one, like a Rebbeisha one. A Rebbeisha Sefer Torah tied to his arm. Why does the king of Israel need to have a Torah scroll brought down to his arm at all times? Yeah.
So when he acts with a tremendous power, he's acting within confines and with the knowledge of Torah.
That's right. Because the king of Israel says, I don't act because of my own interests. I only do what God says. Every one of mine, you're right, I'm the most powerful person in the world. King David is the most powerful person in the world, King Solomon. But he said, I won't budge, God, if you don't want me to do that. Which means true kingship is the opposite of the way the world looks at kingship. Of power and domination. And true kingship is I'm totally empty. And God, whatever you want me to do, I will do that. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do that. I nullify myself to what you want, Hashem. And to the contrary of what a person might think, that's going to make me small, right? Oh, you're nullifying yourself to God. You become the biggest. When you can say, Hashem, it's only you, what you want. Become big. Become very big. Because what you think you want is only based on a finite system of belief. But when you can move yourself away and allow an infinite being to come in, you become infinite. You become infinitely greater than any other false king. So Nachman's saying a very big thing right now. For those of us that are not able to see the godly point in every single thing and to draw this big sun, this light, every single moment of our lives, and to live a life where Chochmas Adam Torah Pana, with the wisdom, of a man who puts his face on fire. Those of us who can't do that, there's another way to get this light, and that's called the Nun. That's called Malchus. What does that mean? Look back inside. Kamaisha Kosav Lifnei Shemesh Yinon Shmo. This verse is talking about Mashiach. That Mashiach has a name. His name is Yinon. It's one of Mashiach's names. Mashiach has a lot of names. Yinon. Yinon, Rashi there says Malchus. Yinon is a Nun. The simple meaning of the pasuk is, as long as the sun endures, Lifnei Shemesh, as long as there will be a Shemesh, Yinon Shemo. His name will be a king. There will be a kingdom, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of King David forever. But look the way Reb Nachman learns this pasuk. Lifnei Shemesh, before you can ever get the big light of the Shemesh, of the Ches, of the Seichel Shebechol Davar, that big light where you see everything clearly, Yinon Shemon. You need to go to the Nun. You need to get involved in Malchus. Malchus means Zebachines Levana. Malchus is compared to the moon. Let's talk about the moon for a moment. Does the moon have anything of itself, any light of its own? No, I look at it in the sky, it's beautiful. I made Kiddush Levana last night. It's nice. It's beautiful. Shena Levana, it's nice. It's very beautiful. Moonlight is very romantic.
Reflects the sun.
Oh! Because where is that coming from?
Sun.
Where is the light? The moon has no light of its own. The moon is only reflecting what it gets from the sun. The sun is the ches. The sun is very, very powerful. The sun is when everything is clear to you, like the tzaddik. Tzaddik is the sun. Itchy Meyer is the sun. When you go there, Itchy Meyer is the sun. When you go to the sun, it's overwhelming. And that sun is in every single thing, the Seichel Shebechol Davar. And when I have that, I'm lit up. But when I have a hard time finding that, there's another way to get that light. And Reb Nachman says you have to become like the moon. The moon has no light. The moon recognizes that it has nothing. But the moon is humble enough to say, I am willing, I'm open to receive from the sun, and that light from the sun will come to me and I'll reflect it. And in a certain way, if I were to ask you a question, what's more beautiful, the sunlight or the moonlight?
Moonlight.
The moonlight. I would have thought if the sun is the light, then sun, that's where it's at, right? It's so bright. The moon is just reflecting it. So it should be on a lower level. But the answer is no, the moon, and the moon is feminine, by the way, the moon is more beautiful. That's why, I must tell you, if you're going to take a girl on a date, don't take her out at 12 o'clock noon, in the middle of the sun. People don't like going out in the middle of the day. It's not so romantic. It's nice to go out at night, moonlight. It's more romantic. Everyone knows that. Under the moon is something special. And even more romantic is by candlelight. The moon is, even though you might say, but it's not as bright. Don't we want bright and light? Some people can handle that, but for most of us, we need to get that light through the moon. The moon is reflecting from the sun. The moon is receiving the light from the sun, and then we're able to relate to it in a special way. The moon is female, is very feminine. And we also have that quality inside of us. To be able to receive, in the same way that we said the king of Israel is not a sun, he's a moon. He's taking Hashem's light, which is the sun, putting it on him and saying, I just want to reflect your Torah. I want to reflect that light to the Jewish people and to all of humanity. I want to reflect the light of the sun, of the tzaddik, of the chachma, of the Torah. I want to reflect that to the nation. That's the moon. Ki ha-levana ein la or me'atzma. The levana doesn't have its own light. Ki ima shemekabeles me'ashemesh. Only that which it receives from the sun. And like it says in the Zohar, Like it says in Zohar HaKodesh, that Zeh Bechinas Malchus, that the Malchus, what does Malchus mean? Kingdom. That the defining principle of the King of Israel is the Leis Lemagar Meklum. That the king has got nothing. A king is just an empty vessel. That's why in the spheres, the Esespheres, the bottom one is Malchus. Malchus is not even a sphera per se. It doesn't even have a personality per se. It's just an empty vessel that takes whatever it received from above and spills it to the system below it. Just like the king is just taking the wisdom of Hashem and spilling that into the Jewish people. That's why in Chazal and in Navi, a king in many places called an Anan is called a king is the same word as a cloud. Because what is a cloud? A cloud takes all of this moisture, all this water. But does the cloud hang on to the water? No, the cloud, as soon as it becomes full, it just spills it out. The cloud has nothing. It's only receiving all of the bracha and then just spilling it out, giving it forth. And Reb Nachman's saying a very deep secret that if I want to get that light from the sun, the Seichel Shebachol Davar, I need to turn myself into a moon. I need to be open. I want to receive. And the way to be open to that is, Hashem, whatever you tell me to do. We began the whole shir today with, I want to learn more halacha. Halacha, like we said, is the same word as hakala, the bride. I want to learn more halacha because halacha means kabbalas ol malchus shamayim. Hashem, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. That's halacha. That's like the moon. I want to become the moon. I want to become the moon. Hashem, whatever you tell me to do, whatever it says in Shulchan Aruch, I'll do. You make yourself into that type of a vessel. Hashem says, now you can reflect the light of the sun. And the ches, which is the chiyas, which is the seichel shebachol davar, which is that chayim, will go to the nun and will reflect in the nun. And of course, when you have a ches and a nun, you have chayim. Then we'll restore our grace, the grace of the Jewish people that was taken away. We're going to restore the chayim and the chashivas. And through that, all of our tefillahs are going to be niskabel. Our prayers will be answered. Elamash mekabelis me'aches, shebechinas chochma, bechinas shemesh. And he's hinting to something we mentioned yesterday in Kiddush HaLevana. In the end of days, it says that the moonlight will become once again like the sun. Because Chazal teaches that there was a metaphysical, abstract discussion at the beginning of creation. When the beginning of creation, Hashem said that He created two great luminaries, Es HaOr HaGodel, Es HaOr HaKatan, the big one and the small one. Now, is that a funny thing to say? And Hashem made two great lights, the big one and the small one. Did I hear correct? He made two big lights, the big one and the small one. It's a riddle. What happened? He made two great luminaries, the big one and the small one. So the Gemara says in Chulin that there was a discussion between the moon and the sun. The moon used to be as bright as the sun. And the moon came to Hashem and said these famous words, that Efshar, the Shnei Malachim, the Shtamshim, the Keserecha, you can't have two kings with one crown. And Hashem said to the moon, I'm going to shrink you. Even though you might think. The moon didn't say anything that was not correct. Could you have two kings with one crown? So some say that Hashem said to the moon, who said you're a king? You assumed maybe you were a king. And Hashem shrunk the moon. But in the end of days, the moon will become bright again, just like it was at the beginning of creation, even brighter. The moon is going to be even greater than the sun. And that's why all the power of the female energy now is growing in the world. And that's why at the end of days, that we're going to see the true beauty, the real beauty of feminine energy in the world. And now there's a lot of counterfeit feminine energy building in the world, which is not healthy. And it's not really what the essence of that energy wants. It wants to be a receiver from the sun, but to take that light and shine it into something even more beautiful. To make it something even more beautiful than the sun could have ever done. And that's why we say that the Eishes Chayil, a truly noble and righteous woman, Ateres Bala is the crown on top of her husband's head, which means the truly righteous woman is even greater than the husband. She's the crown jewel. She's even higher than him. And in the end of days, we're going to see that the moon is going to be bright again. And the way to understand that now is that the moon receives, and it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And the more that it can make itself into a polished receiver, the light will get brighter and brighter, until we're going to see the most magnificent moonlight filling the world. It's going to be so bright and so beautiful, but more profound than the sun itself. That's the way to be able to receive the sun. So Rav Nachman taught us today in summary that there's a big light called the Seichel Shebechol Davar, the Ches, this light that's in everything, that's teaching, that's talking to me at all times. But if that light is too bright and you can't tap into it, there's another way to receive that light. It's called the Nun. It's called Malchus. It's called making myself open to your light, Hashem, and nullifying myself. And when you do that, you receive a much greater light than you could have ever had, and that's the greatest there is. That's the King of Israel. That's the Melech. That's David HaMelech. The Adam Zmiris Yisrael. That's the true King of Israel. And we're going to learn next time that there's going to be a false king. There's going to be a king who denies that there's a point of beginning, who says that I'm the king and I don't receive from anybody. And we're going to see that's going to be the evil brother Esav, and all of his energy and all of what he represents. And we're going to learn that we have to be careful of Esav, because Esav is a big trickster. Esav is very cunning. He's a tzai bepiv. He's be careful. He's a hunter. So we'll have to learn some of his tricks to how to avoid Esav and stay close to Yaakov Avinu. We should be zeichet of this own name. Have a wonderful week, Chevra.
So we